Home buyers, we call it the silent market, but you're going to want to know how to get your hands on the 25% of homes that actually are not traded on the MLS to make sure that you're poising yourself for a great deal with buying. And then the second thing is, where does $400,000 get me anymore in San Diego County? We'll get them both answered right now. Ask Jesse how.
San Diego. What's happening? Jesse Ibanez here. Home buyers, you got questions? Home sellers, you got questions too. Use them hashtags, gang. Get your frequently asked questions answered right here on the Ask Jesse How Show.
Fool me one time, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you.
What's happening, gang? Another episode of Ask Jesse How, where you get your home buyer and home seller questions asked from the socials and the hashtags and all the stuff that's happening hopefully underneath me right now if the editor does his job. I don't know these questions before. Greg Kuchan, real estate consultant extraordinary here at the Greenhouse Group, asked me them in the hopes that they are authentic? They are authentic with authenticity.
Right off the cuff.
Right off the cuff. So that we get the truth up in here. What do we got, baby?
All right. We looked through the Zillow forums and we got both of our questions from there. Dan was asking, can I see a property before it hits the MLS? I'm guessing he's talking about the coming soon signs on the properties.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I'll tell you. So, in San Diego County, I don't know where this question was posed. Is it all local stuff?
Yeah,
okay.
All local.
So in San Diego County, Dan, you should know. A lot of people actually don't know this. Almost a quarter. Okay. So for you math majors out there, that's 1 out of every 4 homes is actually sold off the MLS. Now that's cray-cray talk, okay? Because typically speaking, and this isn't always the case, but it's easy to generalize here while the camera's rolling. Typically speaking, if it's off the market, there's a really good chance that you're going to get a good deal. Why would that be, Greg?
Less competition.
There you go! We call the MLS the big pool of idiots. Not that that means anything about the mental capacities of the people on the MLS. It's just that that's where people get crazy and do crazy things and offer more probably than they should. Because it's competition, right? That's the way it works. And when you deal with scarcity inside of San Diego County, those things can really make for a challenging buying attempt to get a deal. Right? You end up usually, for the most part, paying what it's worth just to make sure that you're nosing out ahead of the other 2, 3, 4, 5 offers that were lining up outside the front door at the same time you were. So if you can see a home and it's got the coming soon sign, or maybe you're catching it like on the internet, and then you jump over to your MLS feed that your agent has given you, right? And you're like, hey, I don't see it. It's a great opportunity to try to get a viewing early and maybe even express some interest through your agent to the listing agent. And by the way, be careful if you're calling the listing agent sign, because you might think that's a great way for you to get a competitive advantage, and to some extent that's not untrue, but in doing so you're forfeiting all of your representation capacity by letting the dude or gal with the sign in the yard help you buy, which really means you're probably not getting any help at all. Right? So all for the trying to catch stuff before it hits the market. Just be careful though, and make sure you're doing it through the right channels of proper representation of buying capacity and agency in the first place, so that regardless of who finds it, you're still being taken care of once you've identified the home. Cool.
All right. So I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Chin Gower from Zillow.
How do you spell it?
Gower.
Yeah, well, that sounds... That's pretty easy.
All right.
Greg's showing his Whitey badge right now, gang.
All right. She wants to know, in San Diego County, what is the best area to buy a single-family home for under $400K?
Oh, man. Well, okay. Rather than just eschewing that as a crazy question to lob at me, thank you, Greg, for grabbing that one. Because obviously there's no such thing as truth outside of context, right? So that's exactly the reason why, before we ever decide to work with anybody, we sit down at this very table, inside this very room, and spend at least 90 minutes. Sometimes it even goes 2 hours, and people think we're nuts for that because they want to try to meet somebody, they meaning people who do what we do in traditional big box environments, love the idea of meeting someone at Starbucks at 9 a.m., going and showing them 12 homes and getting into contract before 5 p.m. that day. right? So from a profitability perspective, you can understand that's an amazing way to run your business. But from an experience from the client, making sure that they're getting their needs as a fiduciary served, probably not that well, right? So we sit down, we carve out 90 minutes to make sure we've identified every single possible thing that's important to you before we ever get out into a car. And it's not just a real estate plan, it's also the mortgage plan. Because if you don't have these two things buttoned up, locked down, ironclad style, what's going to happen is you're going to waste your two most precious commodities, which is your time and your energy. And you can't get those two things back, right? So in San Diego County, the bad news, and I guess it depends on what side of the conversation you're looking on, right? So from a buyer, the bad news is, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, 400 grand could get you something kind of sexy and in not a bad area, and you were pretty stoked on the travel and traction, and 400 got you. I think the median right now is up at around 5.25, I want to say. I could be off on that a little bit, but it's healthy again. And so the challenge is going to be frequency, because we're already starved for inventory in San Diego County, horribly starved. Okay, there's not enough homes for buyers. So when you detached only and then you drop it down to 400 max, it's going to make the options super thin. You're probably going to end up having to ruminate and stretching maybe where your ideal location would be, up a little bit maybe more north, perhaps a little bit more east, and maybe even a little bit more south, because the bulk of all the frequency tends to drop almost like a stone in a pail of water, and it kind of ripples out from there. So other than that, consider maybe sharing some walls for your first purchase. No shame in that if you can not have to sacrifice your lifestyle in order to do so. Yeah? All right. Yeah, I think that was good enough too. All right, gang. So now it's your turn. So go ahead and use the hashtags. Ask Jesse how, homebuyer FAQs, home seller FAQs. We'll find them, and then we'll get them asked and we'll get them answered next week's show with your help. Thanks for sticking in.